one more minute. All right, it's 1 o'clock. We'll get started. I know you guys, your time is important, and I don't want to waste it. So I'm Joe Anderson. I'm a deputy chief at the Fargo Police Department. My current assignment is I oversee the Information and Intelligence Division. So the purpose of this press conference is to give an update on the recent possible alcohol drugging incidents at some of our local bars. The Fargo Police Department takes these allegations and incidents seriously, and we are committed to providing our best services in order to keep the public safe and the public informed. Currently, we have 5 open cases where the victim alleges they may have been drugged due to their inability to recall the previous night's events, or they felt funny at some point after consuming alcohol. Our investigative staff assigned to these cases have reviewed video footage from the various bars on the dates in question to determine if bar staff or if someone else was adding drugs into the alcohol. We have not been able to identify any instances where a person or persons were adding drugs to a drink. However, not all bars in question have interior video cameras, so in addition to reviewing video, our detectives have conducted multiple follow-up interviews with victims and witnesses to determine if they noticed someone tampering with their alcoholic drinks. At this time, we have not been able to corroborate any of the allegations that a person or multiple people are purposely drugging drinks at our local bars. Without getting into case-specific information, we have been able to show through a drug panel screen that one of the victims was negative for the common date rape drugs such as ketamine, GHB, and rohypnol. In a second incident, we learned that the victim was on multiple prescription medications and should not have been consuming alcohol with those medications. If you are consuming alcohol within the city of Fargo and you suspect that you have been drugged, it is imperative you notify the Fargo Police Department as soon as possible. Many of the common date rape drugs, such as GHB, also known as Gina, or liquid ecstasy, ketamine, known as Special K, MDA, commonly known as ecstasy or Molly, and rohypnol, also known as roofies, can be introduced into a drink in a liquid, powder, or pill form, and once placed into the drink, they are generally odorless and tasteless. Symptoms may present themselves within 15 to 30 minutes after consuming the alcohol or your beverage, and last anywhere for 3 to 6 hours depending on the drug. Symptoms may present themselves as feeling dizzy, nauseated, lightheaded, or strange in another way. In order to prove or disprove possible drugging, victims are encouraged to cooperate with the Fargo Police Department. They must consent to a blood draw or a urine sample. Officers can instruct the local emergency room personnel on what specimen samples are needed for specific drug testing. It's important to remember that all drugs affect how well your mind and body function. Alcohol is linked to far more date rapes than the common date rape drugs I already listed. Nearly all abusive drugs make people vulnerable to be taken advantage of by impairing their judgment, reducing their reaction time, and clouding their thinking. If you are at a party or a bar where people are drinking alcohol, you should be aware that there could be predators hoping to make you drunk or vulnerable. No matter what you're drinking, even pop, juice, or water, people can slip drugs into your drinks. So here are a few recommendations to help keep yourself safe. Consume alcohol in moderation. Drink responsibly. Confirm that your drink is being served directly by the bartender or the server. Don't allow people you don't know or trust to order drinks and deliver them to you. Watch your drink at all times. never leave your drink unattended. Keep your hand covered over your drink when you're not looking at it. There are also many creative ways that can help you cover your drink. Take your drink with you if you need to go to the restroom. Get help immediately if you start to feel dizzy, nauseated, lightheaded, or strange. Stick with your friends. Create a buddy system to prevent getting separated from the group for an extended period of time. Test your drink with test strips or nail polish that light a certain color if they detect a drug. The Fargo Police Department, we do not endorse any product, nor have we validated the reliability of those strips or the nail polish, but I just know those are some of the things that are out available to the public to help try to test for those. So these are just some of the things that you can do in order to keep yourself from being victimized. This concludes my statement, and I'll take a few follow-up questions at this time.
A question in regard to the test strips and the nail polish. I mean, if it's supposed to turn purple and that's what proves that you got something funky in your drink, are you then supposed to call Fargo Police and you're supposed to keep that drink, or what do you do then?
Well, obviously those test strips are not definitive. I mean, that's not evidence that it's drugged. It should help you, maybe give you an idea that it might be drugged, combined with how you're feeling. Generally, if drugs are introduced into an alcoholic drink, such as GHB, Rohypnol, ecstasy, typically ketamine, you'll feel the effects either immediately or close to immediately, or like I said, 10 to 15 minutes afterwards. If by chance it does turn, retain the drink, notify the police department as soon as possible. We would take the drink as evidence and potentially get it. We'd also request that you as a victim would go get tested as well, either blood or urine, and we would be able to send that sample off to a lab, and we would definitively be able to say if that alcohol or that drink was drugged. Yes?
There are 5 open cases. Are these all women, and can you tell us?
There's a mixture. There's a male, but most of them are women, young women. Bars vary. So like I said, there's no information. There's no analysis that shows that any specific type of woman is being targeted. There's nothing to show that. The video evidence that we've reviewed so far, like I said, doesn't corroborate that anyone is introducing any alcohol, any drugs into the alcohol.
And you said you test for a handful of these drugs. Are there instances in which you would test for any other drugs?
Well, obviously I can't speak for what our local emergency rooms or hospitals can do, but obviously they have a drug screen that they can do as well. But some of these date rape synthetic drugs require special testing that they don't have the ability to do. So then we would require to send those specimens to a special lab for analysis.
And
Yes, ma'am.
Are you guys still investigating, or are you guys kind of calling off the investigation?
No, we're still investigating.
Are your investigators or your officers on night patrol, are they being directed to do anything different or be extra aware in the coming weekends?
I can't speak for what Deputy Chief Renner has instructed for his personnel. I know we have instructed our officers on how to assist victims to obtain the specimens that will help us determine whether or not a specific drug is present in their system or not. So that might have been information that officers didn't have before, but they do have now, and it's fairly simple. It's either as simple as obtaining a blood vial specimen or a urine specimen to send to a lab.
I heard it moves out of the system very quickly.
It depends on the drug. They can remain in the system for hours, potentially some depend on days, but yeah, they tend to dissipate fairly quickly. So time is sensitive. We would encourage people, if they, men and women alike, if they start to feel funny, some of those symptoms of being nausea, lightheaded, dizzy, euphoric, things that just aren't normal for their typical, if they've consumed alcohol before, what your level of alcohol consumption and how you feel are. But there's obviously, indicators that might change, how tired you are, how much food you've consumed that will affect how quickly you may become intoxicated.
Have you prosecuted any cases that you recall? Because I heard it's very difficult to get a conviction.
I can't speak for prosecution. I don't recall of any instances, but
Is there any specific bars that problem's been at?
no. In fact, the reason why I didn't say is because we have not corroborated anything, and obviously by at this point, naming specific bars might have unintended consequences for them. But at this point, people just need to be aware that this could happen at any bar. It can happen at any party that they attend. So it's just not a bar issue, especially for women. They need to understand that this can happen anytime, any place when they're consuming alcohol, especially if they're not, if they don't know where the alcohol is coming from, if they're not getting it directly by themselves. So, yes.
Sorry, one more. I've been speaking with some victims, or some people have been commenting as we've reported on this story, and many people say that they haven't called because it's embarrassing. I mean, when you feel so inebriated or you don't feel in control of your body, they felt that they were too embarrassed to call police because they didn't want to tie up your line. Is there anything that you can say to potential future victims of how important it is to call police as soon as, even if they feel like maybe I just had too much to drink, they don't know what happened to them? Can you kind of talk about how important it is just to call your officers?
For us to get that information is critical. Obviously, it's important that we get victim cooperation, because in many of the cases that I've mentioned, the victims, like I said, they either don't want to come forward and someone convince them or talk them into coming forward, or they don't want to be a victim. I can understand that, but that limits what we can do as a police agency, because if they're not willing to be a victim, if they're not willing to cooperate in the case, that means that this case will likely not go for prosecution if we identify someone that is actually slipping or drugs into someone. So we need to have cooperation at the victim level as well, and for the most part we have. It is not an inconvenience for the victim to call the police department. That's what we are here for. So they need to maybe get past that of, they're embarrassed, or we will have to balance whether or not, because we will look at it in some of these cases, how much alcohol did you consume, and sometimes they may over-exaggerate or under-exaggerate the amount of alcohol, and then when we start investigating, talking to witnesses, looking at video, we can either see that that person was really inebriated, was stumbling, maybe fell down. So obviously it's a complete investigation, but the victims need to come, encouraged to come forward and help us investigate these cases. Yes?
I guess sort of following up on that, so you said you've gotten videos from the actual bars and restaurants. In these specific investigations, are you relying on the public's help? If somebody has seen something, do you want them calling in? I guess just witnesses that maybe you didn't interview, or anybody who now hears about this.
In these specific cases, we haven't identified anything where we would need the public's help. But if someone is at the bar and they see something strange, like someone drops something or pours something that after into a bottle or a glass that just doesn't look right, we would hope that person would come forward and provide us that information. It might be something that's well after the fact, but that would hopefully lead us in the right direction.
When did these cases start? The 5?
Throughout the month. We had one of our first back in January, but for the most part, the majority of them have been in the month of March. We didn't have any in February.
And is this an increase in these cases?
I don't have that information as far as, it just seems like maybe the heightened knowledge of what potentially is going on has made people more aware of the possibility that there could be someone or some people out there that are drugging people. As I said before, though, we don't have any information to corroborate that. Information is always great to get out there. So, if this press conference, if it does nothing but heighten the sense of of people's knowledge of when they go to a bar or when they're consuming alcohol, that one, maybe they need to drink responsibly, they need to drink in moderation, they need to be aware of their surroundings, have good situational awareness. That's hard to do when you're drinking alcohol and consuming with friends and trying to have a good time. But again, don't set yourself up to be a victim. So like I said, there's things that you can do. Take your drink with you, cover your drink when you're not looking at it, to help prevent yourself from being a victim.
Are these people all sexually assaulted?
No. No.
None of them?
We have one case where we're dealing with a possible sexual assault.
So it's just a matter of them being drugged?
Correct. All right, I appreciate your time.